I feel like I've read my fair share of great trilogies, but I think this might be the best one I've ever read. I hesitate to say this because Divergent and the Hunger Games hold such a special place in my soul, but this was amazing. For my fellow writers, you know those books you read and you're like, why do I try? Why do I try to write? This is one of those books. It was so well done. I have my issues with the ending, and I think a lot of people do, but I think the parallels that are drawn between this world's society and our current society, particularly when it comes to religious views, is what makes this a really impactful read. If you're like, Katelyn, what the heck are you talking about? This is the first book of the Scythe Trilogy, and the story takes place in a futuristic dystopia where no one dies, no one gets sick, but the population is growing, which calls for scythes, people that are sanctioned to kill, and they're the only thing that is not under control of the Thunderhead, which is basically if Apple took over the world and Google became an all-knowing man-made god. If you've not read Scythe and the Thunderhead, you definitely don't want to stick around for this, because a lot happens before you get here, and a lot happens in this book. If you're on the fence about finishing this trilogy, you should 100% finish this. I know it's kind of long, and I know the first 100 pages are a little rough. You can do it, I promise. It's so worth it. Goodbye if you have not read this. I'm gonna be going into all the spoilers. I have no idea if I'm gonna go chronologically, so please don't spoil this for yourself. Goodbye. Goodbye. I actually took some notes this time because there was way too much for me to keep track of mentally going in to make this video. And I still feel like this is not enough. This book was so good for my English major brain that loves to dissect literature. Let's talk about Jerry. We have this new character. We had a ton of new characters, which was kind of exciting. I loved seeing the world expand, but also this different sides. I had a hard time. But Jerry is a very memorable character. Like, I'm picturing a very Jack Sparrow type character, and they're the leader of this salvage ship. They actually have a mission. They don't really know exactly what they're looking for, and we spend a ton of time hanging out at the beginning of the book before we even find Citra and Rowan, who have been under the water for 2.5 years, frozen in their bodies that need to be revived. When they find them, Jerry's like, we found something big. And they don't even get a reunion. I was so ready for them to be brought back to life and be together and ready to just tell the world everything. But no, Rowan falls into the clutches of Goddard basically immediately, because what else does that boy get to do? Citra wakes up and she remembers oh, Rowan's basically already a prisoner because everybody thinks that he sank Endora. A reminder that after Endora sank, the Thunderhead was so pissed off at humanity that everyone is now unsavory. They can't talk to the Thunderhead. And I was starting to notice the kind of biblical religious parallels in Thunderhead. I kind of didn't think that much of it, but it was really obvious in this one. And so I feel when there was no sickness and everybody was fine, that was sort of their Eden of this society, and Endora sinking was literally the fall of humanity. And now everyone's unsavory and they can't talk to the Thunderhead, their god, except for Grayson Tolliver. Who would have thought our little Nimbus agent in training Grayson would be here? He is essentially the Thunderhead's son, aka God's son, aka the Jesus character. He's getting a lot of followers. Goddard does not like the Tonists, and he's like, you know what we should do? We should kill the Toll. And it's so funny because the Thunderhead is trying to warn Grayson, but because he can't interfere in Scythe affairs, he can't tell Grayson, get out of here. And Grayson feels his bathwater getting warmer, you're literally in hot water, buddy. And the Thunderhead is like, Grayson, I feel like you should take a trip, now, leave now. And it is because a Scythe is about to break into his room and murder him. Now, Grayson manages to make an escape from this Scythe, actually kind of employs the Scythe to be a protector, sort of. But Grayson's like, you know what we should do? Let's get Goddard off our backs. I'm going to fake my own death so that I can start doing what I really need to do. And for him, this means going around to the different Tonist cults and making sure they don't get so radicalized that they get wiped out from the earth. So when Grayson fakes his death, when people see him again, it has the effect of a resurrected Christ figure. And the Toll is their Christ. And he's going around to these cults to save them from themselves, to save them from their sin. And in order to do so, he's performing miracles because no one believes that anybody can talk to the Thunderhead anymore. They're like, what are the odds that this one kid can talk to the Thunderhead? Like, that doesn't make any type of sense. But then he'll start to tell these people things that only the Thunderhead would know about them, because the Thunderhead is speaking directly into his ear. And it's so like Bible stories where Jesus would have gone and talked to like Pharisees and Sadducees, people who have taken the law to an extreme. He's talking to Thonists who have taken their laws to the extreme, to the point that there's this one cult where everybody has cut out their tongues to show their devotion. All they do is like intone, and he's literally curing them. He gets them to turn their nanites back on so that their tongues will grow back. I didn't like to think about it, but then he tells all these people, he's like, oh, your tongueless leader was definitely like under sedation or something when he got his tongue removed. Everyone else, he like made them chop it off, I think, without their nanites on. No. But he gets his, scythe to glean this guy. It's really interesting because he goes to ask the Thunderhead, did I do something wrong? Like, was that evil? Was that the right thing to do? And the Thunderhead doesn't really console him on his choice, even though he sort of approves of anything Grayson's gonna do right now. Like, Grayson gets to help make these decisions. He's part of this kind of forming trinity where he also has the power to make decisions. The burning scene. Okay, Goddard is getting ready to barbecue Rowan in front of an entire stadium of people. Like, Rowan is supposed to be at the top of this pyre that's gonna go into flames in every color. The fact that the engineer was telling Rowan, he's like, you're gonna see your own death and it's gonna be beautiful. I was like, sir, read the room. But then it's actually the engineer on the top of the pyre because the Texas people came in and saved Rowan. But Goddard doesn't know that. He's way down on the stage, not even looking back at the pyre, giving this speech about how great he is for putting down Scythe Lucifer. And then someone comes and taps him on the shoulder. Fantastic. Like, this is the best way this could have happened, is somebody have to come and run up and like, excuse me. And realizing that he's been tricked, Goddard is so embarrassed that he tells all the Scythes in the stadium to start murdering 30,000 people. He turns it on the people who came. He's like, death is for Scythes only. Like, the fact that you're here wanting to watch this guy die is so sadistic of you. You're a horrible person. Don't worry, we're here to save you and kill you. Kill everybody in the stadium. And not even with that, like, he is evil to a point where he's letting Scythes glean according to their biases, whereas there used to be laws, like, you have to be very specific, like killing certain demographics, people with different belief systems. And Rand is in the background just letting this all happen. I know that she's probably scared of Goddard. She's probably been in his crew since basically day one, since they started this whole New Order thing. So I get that she was probably super intimidated, but at this point, after the 30,000 people and after her seeing him in these meetings, she knows better, basically. Like, we know that she feels guilty over this. She goes and talks to, like, Tyger's likeness all the time, like, because they've saved his memory bank, even though Goddard is using Tyger's body. This book is really complicated. And she goes and talks to him almost as a way to just kind of try to cleanse her brain from all this grossness that Goddard's putting in there, because Tyger, despite his stupidity, is a very pure and kind soul. And the fact that even Tyger's, just the saved personality of him in a computer is still condemning the stuff that Rand is doing, it's eating away at her. When Citra decides to go and find the toll, I was just a little confused about where we were going. I was like, okay, I know Citra and Rowan have to be endgame, but there was a moment where I was like, Citra and Grayson? ? Because Citra saw him and, he's kind of all grown up because it's been a little while, and they kind of have like a very good understanding of each other. But then Jerry comes in and is like kind of hitting on Citra, kind of hitting on Grayson, and I was like, we do not have time to deal with like a love pentagon. Thank goodness we didn't go there. Can you imagine how long this book would have had to be to deal with a love pentagon? This one was only a love square and it had 800 pages. Let's move on.
What? Let's move on.
I'm just stalling.
Okay, this is so interesting. Humanity, a long time ago, apparently, had made it to space. We were living on the moon. We were living on Mars, or about to live on Mars. The Scythes decided to just destroy it all, because there was this one Scythe, I don't remember his name. There are so many of these people. The Scythe was like, if we can just keep going to new planets, there is no reason for Scythes to be a thing, because nobody needs to die if we have plenty of space. Literal space. But literal space! There was literally enough space for every human that was born that we wouldn't have to kill any more of them. And this side is like, I have a purpose. This is like my thing. I enjoy killing people. I want to keep my job. intoning to keep my sanity when this boy said that. And then, I read this on audiobook, so sometimes when I don't read with my eyes, I don't catch all the details, but somehow Goddard got involved with this dude, and he let everyone die. Goddard wasn't a Scythe yet, and he let everybody on his settlement die, including his parents, just so he could get away and be a Scythe himself. If that moment, that decision that he made does not explain his entire character, like, I don't know what does. And now, can you imagine, I get that the Thunderhead is not a human, not really, but can you imagine knowing that nobody had to die, that humanity could live in space, and you can't say anything because the Scythe ruined it, and you cannot interact with Scythes, you can't get involved. And like this information, Citra proves it throughout the book. This information was available to everyone the entire time. It's just that nobody bothered to go beyond the surface of the Thunderhead. Nobody bothered to interact with the Thunderhead other than just like, can I have this? Can I have that? All these things. No one cared enough about the Thunderhead to pay attention to him. It's almost like that parallel with biblical prophets where they're like, you're hearing me, you are not listening to me. So, because the Thunderhead can kind of see where Goddard is going with this, it's trying to get everybody to recreate spaceships without knowing they're creating spaceships, and he's building it in the blind spot of his own brain. That part confused me, like all this is happening in the blind spot, probably because Goddard also would be ignoring this blind spot because nobody flies over it. But it's like they're building the ark, like the reckoning is coming, and so the Thunderhead is going to save these people, specifically the religious Tonists. Except that all these Tonists are dead. That was so creepy. Goddard is letting the Scythes kill off the Tonists at ridiculous paces. The way people of all different religions are sometimes just killed because of what they believe in. But the Thunderhead is orchestrating this, that all these dead Tonists get put into refrigerated trucks to be put on these space pods, aka Noah's Ark, into space. And then the Thunderhead is going to supplant these people's bodies with the memories of humanity's best minds. Because if anyone's gonna make it in space with the limited resources that they're taking with them, it's going to be the smartest people that have ever lived. When Jerry starts to speak like the Thunderhead, Grayson recognizes the way Jerry's like, "Good morning, Grayson," is exactly the way that the Thunderhead speaks to him every single morning, because the Thunderhead watches him sleep, and then it becomes immediately clear. It's not like the Thunderhead is trying to cover it up. Jerry starts saying like the exact miles they are from something and the exact coordinates of things. It's not hiding the fact that Thunderhead has taken over this person's body. And then this is where things go off the rails, because the Thunderhead is in love with Grayson, ? And then the Thunderhead basically uses Jerry's body. And I'm just like, this is like possession. In theory, the Thunderhead could take over anyone's body. Like, this is a new development that I did not know could happen. This is where the God parallels fell apart for me. The Thunderhead has clearly made a mistake, knows it's making a mistake. That's like it knows it's sinning by taking somebody's body away from them. And I think the reason that this God complex kind of thing falls apart is because the Thunderhead is man-made. This is sort of like what happens when humanity tries to make its own god. If people are imperfect, the tech that they make is going to be imperfect, even if it's gained its own consciousness and has taken the role of vast overseer of the universe. And after this, we start getting snippets of the Thunderhead talking to what I thought for a while was itself, but it was actually Cirrus. It's baby, like the baby it had with Jerry and Grayson, but it's not a physical human. It's just copies of the Thunderhead that can speak to unsavories, because Thunderhead knew if it was going to save humanity, it needed to speak to humanity again, but it's cut off humanity because humanity's unsavory, and so it has to send this intermediary. And that's where the parallels came back. So there's Grayson, the Jesus character, the Thunderhead, the God character, and now we have Cirrus, which can talk to people directly. That's kind of like a Holy Spirit type of thing, so that would be the parallel of the Christian Trinity, right? Before I realize what's happened and that Cirrus is a thing, I am reading these snippets between Cirrus and the Thunderhead as the Thunderhead talking to itself, or the Thunderhead's creator. So I was like, are we going back in time? what is happening here? Who is the Thunderhead talking to? The answers seem so wise and godlike that I was like, is this like the master creator of the Thunderhead? Like the tech genius who made it? And that's what kind of clued me into this trinity idea, is that like you would only talk in third person to yourself if there is more than one person in the self. And that's it. The Thunderhead has made duplicates of itself that can talk to humanity, and it's going to be the Jarvis of each space pod. And each of these little Cirruses are ready to self-destruct if life completely ceases on any of these pods. When Scythe Faraday sees Citra again, I was unwell. This man has been through the ringer. Like, he first has to find out that everyone he loved was dead in the sinking of Endora. Munira is the only one there for him, and he treats her like crap. I was like, Faraday, you are a good person. Deep down, Faraday is a good person, and he never takes the bait from Munira to just enjoy a little bit of something, and he's really mean to her. And now that there are 2 Scythe rings, and Faraday and Citra are just like, oh my gosh, we have both of the rings, we gotta go to the cave thing, I don't know. And he's just so happy to see her when he's never been this happy to see Munira. I thought Munira was gonna turn. I was like, this girl is gonna be the downfall. I didn't like her when we met her inside. I had a weird feeling about her, and now it's coming true. It didn't, which was good. I didn't want Scythe, Faraday, and Munira to get together necessarily. Like, their age gap in theory doesn't really matter. He could just turn a corner and they would physically be the same age. But at that moment, I was just real concerned. But it turns out that Munira didn't have to tell anybody. Who was it that sent the signal to Goddard? I don't remember. But I mean, it's definitely the Judas parallel. For too many new characters for me to keep up with. But whoever did tell Goddard. Goddard now knows where Citra and Rowan, his arch nemesis, are, and he is on the way. And so the Thunderhead starts talking to Grayson and is like, hey Grayson, I think you should take a trip the way he did earlier. And Grayson kind of ignores it at the beginning. And then the Thunderhead is like, everyone on the island should take a trip right now. That's how they know to escape. So they're trying to escape to these space pods that like kind of maybe are ready. And before this, Citra and Rowan were thinking about the space pod. They're like, you know, like on this earth we're weird celebrities. Like Rowan's infamous. That's a weird vibe for people to deal with. He doesn't like it. Citra doesn't like being famous. She doesn't even want to be a Scythe anymore. And a lot of people are having this. They're like, should I stay on these atolls? We're like part of the myths of the Tonus people, or should I go up into space with all these dead Tonus bodies and start new civilizations? A lot of people are now making the choice to go to space because Goddard is coming and going to shoot them all. And when Goddard gets there, he starts shooting. He sees Citra's like turquoise robe. Even though she's not a Scythe anymore, she's still wearing it. Why were you still wearing it? She gets shot and dies in Rowan's arms. Like, all Rowan can do is get her on a ship and then beg Sirius to let her be revived with those other dead Tonus later, but come back as herself and not one of these other people that the system's like supplanting people with. And it agrees to do this, but Citra does have to wait that 117 years. And Rowan's like, fine, I'm just gonna go sit in the freezer until I die, and then you bring me back in 117 years. And the ship is like, this vessel has a much lower chance of making it if you decide to make that decision. And it's like, I'm not gonna make the choice for you, but if you stay awake and alive and be a leader to these people, Citra has a much bigger chance of making it to wherever they're going and being able to be revived. If everybody dies, like, even though there could be revival, if everybody dies, then that pod self-destructs because there's no human life on it. This poor guy, like, he literally has been ready for death for so long. The only thing he wants is to be with Citra, and now he has to wait 117 years. Oh my gosh, speaking of having to have life. Okay, so the Tonus lady gets on a pod. She is the only living person on there, and she is going to go to like the farthest destination. It's gonna take 1,000 years. 1,000 years to get there. She is the only person, and she's asking the Thunderhead, she's like, what happens? And he's like, well, you could, live the rest of your natural life and die, and then I will self-destruct with all these Tonists. But this pod is gonna let the Tonists come back as Tonists, and she wants to start like this Tonist community and carry on that belief system. Sirius is like, okay, well, I mean, you can just keep turning corners. She is immortal, basically. And so she's gonna be alone for 1,000 years. That was really depressing. We just kind of left it at that, where she felt really hopeful enough about having a Tonist community that she's going to be alone for 1,000 years. That was a rough one. That was a rough conclusion for that person's story. Not that she was a big part, but I felt real bad for her. Scythe Rand, thank goodness, killed Goddard. Not a moment too late, am I right? She could have killed him so long ago. And then she makes sure that Tyger gets supplanted back into that body. I'm sorry, do you really want to look at Goddard's face for the rest of your life after all that? Whatever, she's in love with Tyger, and I mean, the body is still, 7/8 Tyger, except for the face. He comes back. Tyger comes back to this body. He starts feeling the face. He's like, what the heck is his face? It was really creepy. Like, I just can't get past, thinking that he looks like Frankenstein with different body parts attached. And this is the best we could do for him, and I didn't like it. Tyger is Rand's only redemption. I don't see her killing Goddard as a super redemptive arc, because yes, she finally had the courage to do it, but it was after so much damage had been done. It was after Citra had been killed by him, so I was done. The only good thing is that you can tell there's some sort of goodness in her because she loves someone so innocent and pure like Tyger. Because she let some stuff happen and it was not good. All these pods have taken off. I couldn't really tell what the parallel was, whether it was, a parallel with the Exodus from Egypt, because Goddard would be like the pharaoh at this point, come on his chariot/rocket to get and kill all the people before they can escape, or if it was more of the planets are heaven where there's no death and all these people are going to be in another perfect society. But for the people back on Earth, Scythe Faraday asks Munir, and he's like, I have Citra's scythe ring, do you want to be a scythe? And Munir, that's all she's wanted, but she turns it down. Scythe Faraday a long time ago said, he's like, if you want to be a scythe, you shouldn't be a scythe. But she will be for a few minutes, just so they can open this vault that Scythe Faraday has been trying to open forever, but you needed 2 rings to open. They do, and the tone goes off, and the rings burst open. These scythe rings have been carrying 10 plagues, like the 10 plagues in Egypt, except it's not frogs and flies, it's different illnesses, and every 20 years these illnesses are engineered to knock out 5% of the population. And now the scythes don't have to choose who they kill. Scythes now are mercy killers. It's still sad. People are still having to die, and there is a chance that someone who's only 20 is gonna get one of these illnesses, whereas somebody could be 1,000 years old and just have escaped these, every 20-year plagues. But it's definitely a much more fair system than the scythes, and this was the backup plan that those original scythes created. And my microphone died. Welcome to much worse audio quality. Thank goodness we made it to the end without that dying halfway. I appreciate you. The book does end on a happy note where Citra wakes up and Rowan is there, 130 whatever, except that he's probably turned the corner, so Citra really does, she recognizes the face that's there. She was like, I remember, we were running, and she asked, how long has it been? And Rowan's like, it's only been a moment. It's only been gone for a few minutes. It wasn't a happy ending. I mean, it was sort of a happy ending, but I don't think there was, a way for this to end happily without it feeling fake. There was not gonna be cotton candy and gumdrops at the end of this book. And if there had been, it would have ruined it. But also, if everybody had died, obviously that would have ruined it too. So I feel like this is the best type of ending we could have gotten here. Even though I was just still sad, and Marie and Faraday never got to be together. It was really, really good. This trilogy is a 10 out of 10 for me. I would definitely recommend it to everybody. I'm trying to get people to read it. I know it's a big commitment. If you want to follow me on social media, all my socials shall be in the description. Please like this video if you liked it, and click subscribe if you want to talk about more book stuff. My name's Katelyn. Thanks for watching. Bye!